Are you ready to party? Let's go.
Okay, my beautiful people, welcome back to Let's Go Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. If you like what we're doing here on this podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review. Please leave a nice little comment. And also go to YouTube, subscribe, leave us a comment, watch the videos. We really appreciate that. It helps us out a lot. So thank you for doing that. But anyways, this week we're going to do something a little bit different. We have been getting actually quite a few direct messages on our social media account, on our Instagram, and I also get it from a lot of people that I know who listen to the podcast and have my number. But I got an interesting story from a friend. He wants to remain anonymous, and understand why. So as far as this story goes, we're just going to name him Jeremy. He's a good friend. He listens in, loves this podcast. He loves how open-minded we are here, that we talk about all things insane, crazy, fun, faith, love, conspiracy theories. We do it all, and we love doing it here. So anyways, so Jeremy was about 10 years ago in 2012. He grew up here in Southern California, and he and his father used to go to Gorman all the time to dirt bike ride quads, which is understandable. If you don't know where Gorman is, that is, if you know where Six Flags is, if you go up the Grapevine up the 5, it's past that by probably about 30 minutes, 40 minutes, top of the Grapevine. It's up there where LA County and Kern County come together. But anyways, fun fact too, I used to work out there in the Forest Service. That's why I know that place very well. Anyways, they went to Gorman. This is 2012. They've been dirt bike riding all day, having a blast. He's with his dad. They're having a good time. They set up camp. Evening's coming. They're cooking dinner. They're having a good time. They start a fire. It's now pretty much dark. And they're sitting back in the fire in their camping chairs. And Jeremy said something caught him from the corner of his eye, and he kind of looked up. And he saw something in the sky moving that didn't really make sense. He knew it wasn't a plane because a plane couldn't move in the fashion that this object was and as bright as it was. And he knew it wasn't a satellite. Usually satellites, as he knows, and maybe most people, but they're pretty steady and faint in the sky, and you can pick them out pretty quick. But he knew it wasn't either, and he couldn't explain it. And the longer he looked, it was getting a little bit closer. Didn't think anything of it, and he told his dad to look up, and his dad saw it. And as soon as his dad looked up, he said there were flashes of light that encompassed them all the way around, almost like being at a red carpet event for a movie, and you see all these celebrities as they walk the red carpet, and they have the cameras, and they're flashing. He said it was kind of like that, but it was all around him. And then it felt like it was just a second, and then he woke up in his chair next to his dad. The funny thing is, he said his dad was standing up, but he woke up in a chair, sitting next to his dad, who was sitting down, passed out, and he saw that the fire had gone out. And when he looked at his watch, he had realized that 7 hours had gone by, 7 hours that he could not account for. He was very confused, woke his father up. His dad equated to hey, we were just drinking beers and we passed out. But as he reminded his dad, don't you remember seeing what was up in the sky? Don't you remember all those lights that flashed around us? His dad started to remember. He said, oh, yeah. And they couldn't put together what happened and why they both lost 7 hours of their life at night and don't remember anything that happened except for seeing something very unusual in the sky, fly around, get closer, and then a bunch of bright lights flashed around them, and it's 7 hours later. I don't know. I think it's very interesting. I'm glad that Jeremy told us the story. I could see why he probably doesn't want to let out who he is or his name, because some people don't believe in this stuff or may think it's crazy. It doesn't exist. I don't care what you believe. On this show, this podcast that we created, we accept everyone, love everyone. You can be a Democrat, Republican, Green Party. I don't care. You can love who you want to love, be who you want to be. Doesn't bother me. I just want to talk life. And I think this is a great, interesting story. At least for me, at least for us here on this podcast, I know I could speak probably for Jordan, Sam, and even Evan, to say that we're the only living thing on this earth, I think is pretty arrogant. I'm not saying green Martians, but I think this universe is massive. It's huge, and there's got to be more out there than just us floating around on this piece of dirt through space and time. What that is, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see it in our lifetime. Maybe we won't. I don't know. But it's pretty interesting to see everything that's going on around us, not just what's being seen here in the U.S. throughout the years, but also in Russia, also in China. As our technology gets better, we're starting to see these UAPs, unknown aerial phenomena, all across our military and across our military bases. So it's an interesting time. I don't know. Let you decide. You have the story. Let me know what you think. You can leave a comment, message me, whatever you want. If you have my number, whatever. If I don't text you back, sorry, I get blown up a lot. So anyways, so for our last story, at least for this episode, it's going to be a lot shorter. It's one that I kind of grew up with, that my father read to me as a kid. And as you all know, he was a warrior for most of his career's life. He was a Green Beret. And he loved this country, or he still loves this country. He loves God, and he loves his family. And the story sticks out to me because it's not just a story of one person, but, thousands who decided to give up their life for what they believed. And at that, probably a very painful death. But anyways, this is about the Theban Legion in 286 AD. 286 AD. So I am going to tell you this story now. In the year 286 AD, there was a legion of soldiers, over 6,600 men, that consisted of all Christians. This group was known as the Theban Legion, as the men were raised in Thebes. They were ordered by Emperor Maximian to march to Gaul to assist him against the rebels of Burgundy. However, about this time, Maximian ordered a sacrifice, at which the soldiers were to assist and command that they take oaths of allegiance and swear at the same time to help him wipe out Christianity from Gaul. Each member of the legion refused to sacrifice or take the oaths Maximian had ordered. This angered Maximian. So he called for every 10th man of the legion to be selected and killed by the sword. After his order was executed, the remaining men of the Theban legion were still resolute, refusing to sacrifice to idols and take the oath to slay the Christians of Gaul. Therefore, a second decimation occurred, and every 10th man was killed by the sword. Still the soldiers were unbending. The remaining soldiers drafted a document outlining their grievances and sent it to Emperor Maximian. Damn it. That's gangster. They had enough guts to write what they felt. Anyways, quote, "While your commands are not contradictory to those of our common master, we shall always be ready to obey, as we have been. But when the orders of our prince and those of the Almighty differ, we must always obey the latter. Our arms are devoted to the emperor's use and shall be directed against his enemies. But we cannot submit to stain our hands with Christian blood. And how indeed could you, O emperor, be sure of our allegiance and fidelity, should we violate our obligation to our God, in whose service we were solemnly engaged before we entered the army? You command us to search out and to destroy the Christians. Is it not necessary to look any farther for people of that denomination? We ourselves are such, and we glory in the name. We saw our companions fall without the least opposition or murmuring, and thought them happy and dying for the sake of Christ. Nothing shall make us lift up our hands again over sovereign. We had rather die wrongfully, and by that means preserve our innocence, than live under a load of guilt. Whatever you command, we are ready to suffer. We confess ourselves to be Christians, and therefore cannot persecute Christians, nor sacrifice to idols." End quote. Infuriated at their resolve and solidarity, Emperor Maximian had the entire legion put to death. On September 22nd, 286, the Theban legion was cut to pieces by the sword. Very, very powerful story, something that my father read to me at a young age. And what he tried to instill in me is you got to have something that you're going to fight for and believe in. I mean, you want to live for something. And whatever your beliefs are, that's on you. I really don't care. I have my own faith. Am I a person who attends church every day? No, not at all. Or every Sunday. It's not me. Do I believe there's a creator? Absolutely. I think it's amazing when you hear stories like this of people who were so devoted in their faith and had such conviction that they're willing to lay down their lives next to their brothers in arms. Maybe that's something we have to think about. What are you willing to die for? What are you willing to sacrifice your life for? And these men were willing to give everything up for their faith. And I think it's something that's absolutely heroic and beautiful in its own right. But those are our two stories for tonight. Thank you so much for listening in. Next week, we are going to have a guest on. We wanted to change it up because we are getting a lot of stories, people telling us some amazing things. I wanted to tell one story that stood out to me since I have been on this earth and that has really spoken to me throughout the years. And then also, we'll say Jeremy. And it's a story with the UAP and the unknown. Like I said before, if you like what we're doing here, please like, subscribe, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us out in our rankings, and also subscribe on YouTube. Watch, leave a comment. We really appreciate it. I hope you all have a great week. I hope you enjoyed the stories. What are you living for? Let's go. And that's it. Thank you for listening in, everybody. I'd like to thank our sound engineer who makes this podcast happen and makes us sound very good, Stephen Clark. And to our first sponsor, 89 Barbers. Look good, feel good, be great. Come get your haircut at 2 locations, Long Beach and in Orange, California. Your appointment can be booked at 89barbers.com. That is BARBRERS. 89barbers.com. Again, look good, feel good, be great. Check it out. It's my barber. He is the man. Thanks, everybody. Bye.